All right, class, this is lesson 7.2. This is actually a review. One of the things you may run into is a need for solving a quadratic equation, so we're going to review that a little bit here. So this video will actually have two parts. Part one will just be this review, and then part two will be the actual lesson. So there's a couple ways to solve quadratic equations. The one way is we can solve it by factoring. And here's one example of that, and I'll do another example below. And then another way to solve, and factoring doesn't work for all quadratic equations. It only works if you can indeed factor it like you can this. And you'll know that's true when you use the quadratic equation if you get rational number answers. Any quadratic equation can be solved using the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula is right here. And so to use that, all you have to do is identify what A, B, and C is in the equation, and then plug it into the formula. All right? So let's try a couple here, and then I'll let you practice as many as you think you need to before you are comfortable doing this again. The first one here, it actually can be factored, so we're going to use factoring for this one. And so we're looking for two binomials that multiply together equal x squared plus 5x minus 14. And obviously the first term in each of the binomials is x, because x times x is x squared. And the way we get this minus 14 here is by the second term in each of the binomials. So we have some options. The minus 14 could be negative 2 and 7. Could be positive 2 and negative 7. Could be 1 and 14, or negative 1 and 14, or 1 and negative 14. And we want to pick the combination that adds together to give us positive 5. And that would be this choice here, negative 2 and 7. So if I write minus 2 here and plus 7 here, if I multiply that out, and if you remember how to do this, use the FOIL method, x times x is x squared, that's that. That's 5x's, you get that by taking the outside 2, which is 7x, plus the inside 2, which is negative 2x. And then the last term, minus 14, you get by multiplying the negative 2 times the 7. So that works. And once it's factored like that, we can use those factors to solve it by using the zero product property. And the zero product property, and it's fairly obvious, if you're multiplying two numbers together and you get 0, one of those numbers has to equal 0. So either we get 0 from this binomial, x plus 7, or we get 0 from the other binomial, x minus 2. And the number that would give us 0 here is negative 7. The number that gives us 0 here is 2. So the solutions are 2 and 7. So x equals 2 and x equals negative 7 are two solutions to that equation. All right, the second one, I think it is actually factorable. It's just a little bit harder to do. And whenever this term is greater than 1, factoring is a little bit more complicated. So in this case, we are going to, unless you remember how to do that, and I'll just kind of give you a general idea of what we need to do for factoring. You would have to separate this 4x into two terms, and that could either be 4x times x or 2x times 2x. And then this 3 is what makes up these other two terms. Like I could put plus 1 and plus 3, or minus 1 and minus 3, and I would choose minus 1 and minus 3 here because of this minus sign. But I think the actual factors would be put a minus 1 here and put a minus 3 here, and I think that would give us negative 13, because 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and negative 12x plus negative 1x is negative 13. I'm going to use this instead to show how to use the quadratic formula. In the quadratic formula, the standard form of the quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So the coefficient of the x squared term is my a value. The coefficient of the x term is the b value, and the constant is c. So in this case, a is equal to 4, b is equal to negative 13, and c is equal to 3. And then my equation is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now all I need to do is substitute for b, negative 13. And that'll make this positive 13, because when you take the opposite of a negative, you get a positive. And I need to put negative 13 in here, square. And I need to put 4 for the a and 3 for the c. And then in the denominator, I need to substitute 4 for a. And then I just need to simplify that. So I get 13 plus or minus the square root of 13 squared is 169 minus 4 times 4 is 16 times 3 is 48. And then I'm going to divide that by 8. And if I simplify that further, I get 169 minus 48 is 121. Square root of 121 is 11, so I get 13 plus or minus 11 divided by 8. And that is 13 plus 11 divided by 8 is 24 divided by 8, which is 3. And 13 minus 11 divided by 8 equals 2 divided by 8, which is 0.85. All right, so there's a couple examples. One thing you should remember is you have to put it in standard form to find a, b, and c. Sometimes you can factor, but you can always use quadratic formula. All right, so this is the end of part 1, and you can go on to part 2.